Is January 14th, and it is currently
2015,
and it is currently 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. If that is the time it is approximately on your clock, you are watching this live, and you'll be able to interact with us.
Yeah, we're coming to you live from a boondocking area in Quartzsite, Arizona. Everything here has been completely powered by solar power at the moment as well.
And also cellular. This is being broadcast over cellular, so there may be glitches in the video and audio. Nothing we can do about that. Just one of the facts of life. Tonight we have Forrest and Mary in our live studio audience, and they will be assisting us with fielding the questions. So we thank them for joining us.
And who are we, and what's the topic?
Yes, who are we? So we are Technomadia. I'm Cherie.
I'm Chris.
And Technomadia. And we live in a bus.
We've been on the road for almost 9 years now.
Almost 9 years we've been on the road. We do these video chats because they're fun. That's number one. It's a great way for us to present a topic without having to spend a few hours typing it up. And it's a great way for us to interact with you and make sure we're answering the questions that you want to hear about. They are a gift. We do these for free. But we do accept contributions of virtual wine if you want to say thanks.
Somebody already sent us
It was a
bottle of wine as well.
Great way to start off this chat to already have a virtual bottle sent our way. So thank you, Joey, for that. We very much appreciate it. There are, if you do want to send one, we do have a donate button on the bottom of every page of our blog at technomadia.com. And we certainly do appreciate it. Never expect it. Tonight's topic is RV boondocking basics. We do have a growing series on this on the blog that you can follow at technomadia.com/boondocking. So you can read a lot of more in-depth articles on this. Yeah. But what is boondocking?
Oh gosh, boondocking. So boondocking is got a pretty broad definition, but in general we refer to it as camping without hookups.
So that can happen in a wide variety of places. That could be on U.S. public lands like BLM and U.S. Forest Service.
That's camping out in the boonies, boondocking style.
Right. It could also include camping in developed campgrounds that don't offer hookups. Some state parks, some national forest campgrounds, even some private campgrounds don't have hookups.
The word boondocking is not usually used when you're doing that, but it's a lot of the same tips and tricks and everything else applies. Right. And then there's also the blacktop boondocking style.
And that might be stopping at a rest stop, a truck stop, a commercial lot like a Walmart or a Cracker Barrel. These are places where you're camping without hookups. So no electricity, no water, and no sewer hookups. Everything is completely self-contained. What you have is what you're using. Yep. So that's what we're using for boondocking. When we go through the rest of this chat, we're going to be specifically talking more about what we call wild camping. Or that's what the Gone of the Winds use.
Yeah, or dispersed boondocking. So out in an open area where hopefully you don't have neighbors near you. Sometimes. Sometimes.
Boondocking is not always free. So sometimes there is a charge to boondock. It might be a permit fee to be on the land. It could be a nightly fee. So boondocking is not necessarily meaning free camping, but it often can be free as well.
So where we are staying right now is BLM land. It is free to camp here for up to 14 days at a time. And the specific rules here are if you want to stay longer, you've got to move to someplace else, at least 25 miles away, and to other BLM land.
Or you can go anywhere. You don't have to go to BLM.
Well, yes, you don't have to go to the BLM land, but you can stay in this one spot for 14 days straight.
But there are also other BLM areas in the area that they call long-term visitation areas, and they allow you to stay there up to 7 months, but there's a $180 permit fee to do that, and they also sell a $40 two-week fee in those areas as well. So not all boondocking is free. Sometimes there are costs. Like some state parks we've stayed at, there's been like a nightly fee of $10 to $15 to stay at them overnight.
Or an entry fee or an out-of-state fee sometimes. So always make sure you know the rules where you're going. But it can be very free or very, very cheap, particularly affordable on the per night rate.
Right. So we've been boondocking, like Chris said, we've been on the road for nearly 9 years now. And the first 4 years that we're on the road, we were very small travel trailers that were outfitted to be off-grid. And we did a lot of boondocking.
Even our very first date was a boondocking kind of stealth camping style out in a place we probably shouldn't have been.
Yes, that was fun. That's when he decided he liked me,
yes.
I think.
Yeah, first date boondocking.
So we've been doing it for a long time, but then we got the bus 3.5 years ago, and it did not come outfitted for boondocking. It didn't have solar panels. It did have a big holding tank, so that was a plus. It didn't even have an electrical battery system in it. And then we got called to the East Coast for family reasons. So we didn't put the investment into doing the upgrades like solar until we knew that we're going to be back to boondocking more in the West Coast.
Well, why is there less boondocking on the East Coast?
There's not as many public lands out east, and
Right.
it's tighter lands out there. There is some out there. That's not to say there's none.
But then there's also humidity too, which, you know, if you're fighting to need air conditioning and to need to run your air conditioner a lot, hookups make a lot of sense. You can do it in a boondocking area, but then suddenly your generator is going from being on a few hours a day to being off a few hours a day if you're in a hot and humid area. And that's no fun for anybody. That's ends up costing you. So that's why there's a lot more boondocking.
Right. And there's just a lot more public lands owned by the BLM, that's Bureau of Land Management, and the National Forest Service out west. So boondocking is much more popular out west than it is east. Yeah. So what are the things that we like about boondocking?
My favorite thing about boondocking is getting to a spot and setting up someplace beautiful and not being able to see anyone else, no neighbors.
That doesn't happen very often.
That doesn't happen that often. Or sometimes you get to a spot and then people seem to say, hey, they've got a good spot. We should go camp right next door to them. But it does happen sometimes, and it is amazing.
But you are generally more out in nature, and even if you do have neighbors, they're much further away than they are in most campgrounds. So it's a lot better situation than being, especially like in a private park, where you might be able to hand a cup of coffee out to your neighbor because they're so close. When you're boondocking, you pretty much need to shout to hear your neighbors. So that's a big plus for us. You're also more out in nature. You're in natural areas. Your hiking is abundant. You've got big wide open spaces around you, especially when you're doing the wild camping dispersed style of boondocking. It is generally cheaper. Even if you are paying a permit fee, the cost per night comes down pretty cheap, even if you're not able to find completely free sites to camp in.
And then one of my other favorite things about boondocking is that just the fun and challenge of it all. Of you're paying attention to your resources. You're managing your power. You're managing your water. It makes you really aware of the things you use, and I think that's actually really kind of fun.
Yeah, it's really fun. One of the things I really enjoyed, because we went from living in stationary houses. I had a house in Florida. Chris had an apartment in San Francisco, and then we both went into this 45-foot. Square foot trailer, not 45 feet long, 45 square feet long,
yes,
big.
The first trailer was
16 feet long. So we went, like, for us, very minimalist living, and then just having to really think about everything that we use in our lives. And that was kind of a really cool challenge to go for our first year on the road.
And then when it gets to the point where you're really thinking about every gallon of water you use and every amp of electricity you use, it takes it to the next level.
Right.
Yep.
So back to the cost thing, though. So while it can be cheaper, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be inexpensive. There are a lot of things that you have to think about when you're boondocking, because you have to be very energy independent and have everything with you. So, if you're using fuel for a generator, you need to know what those costs are to run your generator.
If you need to buy a generator, because some rigs don't have them.
Or a bigger generator. You might need to upgrade your battery bank to be able to hold enough energy to get overnight without using a generator. If you decide to go solar or wind energy with other sorts of alternative energy sources, there's going to be an investment up front in those. And then there's other little things like you might be paying dump fees and water fill fees at places to deal with your tank. So this is only $10 or $15. It's not going to be a big deal, but there are costs. It's not like a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to boondock for free all the time. For some people, especially
you can get it down to almost nothing, but not nothing.
Yes, but there are going to be costs and upfront things to get situated for it. So let's start first about how to find boondocking locations.
Okay. Our secret tip is we've been following Nina lately.
Yeah, just follow Nina.
Nina of Wheeling It. You just would stay right behind her, and she knows where all the good boondocking spots are. It's worked out really well the last month.
But in all honesty, reading blogs, forums, groups, people are they like to share about the places they've been. And a lot of bloggers, well, we like to write about them. So follow some of your favorite bloggers who do boondocking, RV Sue, Nina of Wheeling It.
Our Odyssey still got
Our Odyssey, they're archived because they did almost exclusive boondocking for many years. They've got a lot of archives of the places they stayed.
And follow people who've got rigs similar to yours too. So if you've got a big rig, you're not necessarily going to be able to go to the places the van campers can go to. So if somebody who's commenting on the access roads, make sure they apply to you.
Yeah, very much pay attention to their style, their adventurous level, and what their challenges are, and know what yours are as well. Aside from doing social media stuff, there are some great websites. Freecampsites.net and overnightrvparking.com do keep track of different free campgrounds or low-cost campgrounds across the country. Free campsites, they tend to focus more on the wild camping, and overnightrvparking.com tends to focus more on the parking lot style. Blacked out boondocking, but they have some mix in there. The All Stays app, and they have a website as well. They track some of them as well. One app that we've gotten to using lately in finding sites is the Ultimate U.S. Public Campgrounds app, and it's got all the listings, all the public campgrounds out there. So these might be state parks that have a fee. They could be county parks, and also they're tracking a lot of the BLM and National Forest boondocking spots. So we've been finding that one a useful one lately.
And then as you get more and more, I guess, off the map or to more informal places, then you've got to start doing a little bit of research and digging.
Right. The Days End directory, which is another resource that a lot of boondockers love. It started by an escapees member and is offered, it's only available to escapees members, which is right now only $29.95 a year to join, which is a phenomenal price for all the resources they offer. But for an extra $10, you can subscribe to the Days End directory, which is currently just, I think, a PDF document. But it's got a listing of sites that other escapees contribute towards. So you get kind of a little bit more of an insider's information on that. So that's a great resource. We wrote an app called U.S. Public Lands.
Yeah, so U.S. Public Lands, I don't have a device to pull it up, but yeah, U.S. Public Lands just overlays the National Atlas of the U.S. So all the different public lands is layered on the maps near you, so you can find out, is this area owned by the BLM? Is it managed by the Forest Service? Is it a military bombing zone? You know, places you don't want to go. Yeah, you don't want to boondock in the bombing zone. So owning, particularly in the western half of the U.S. and particularly states like Nevada and Arizona, the government owns the majority of the land, and just finding who manages it and what the basic rules are is really handy.
So one way we've used it is we're in an area and we feel like finding a new boondocking location that might not be discovered by others or as well known, is we'll pull up the map and see what public land is around us. Is there something owned by the BLM? Is there something owned by the National Forest Service? And then we'll go and see what that area is and then go do some more research to find areas that are in there. And we did one with Forest to Mary. It was their first boondocking experience last summer. We found a great location up in Idaho at Magic Reservoir and had a very great time. It was kind of something I didn't see it listed anywhere else.
We were out in the middle of nowhere, and one of the things is once you've got your idea of where you want to go, start using the satellite maps so you can zoom in and find the access roads, because you're not going to make your own road to get someplace. Find the informal access roads. You might even see fire rings. That's a great sure sign. If you see larger rigs that are parked in a spot, that must be a place that's got some dispersed camping spots.
Right. And, also using satellite maps just on Google or your favorite mapping programs. Just start scouting around the area and see if you can see those telltale signs of RVs and other places, things parked in that area. Googling an area. You can just Google free camping near Quartzsite, or what you're going to find a lot there. But type in the nearest city.
Any small town or city and just search boondocking near that city, that town, and Google sometimes will reward you.
There's also a couple of subscription sites that are some unusual boondocking locations. We like Harvest Hosts, which is a couple that put together a site that tracks farmlands, vineyards,
wineries, air museums. Museums are really cool too.
But they reach out to these locations and ask them if they're open to having RVers come through and stay on their property overnight or for a night or two.
Boondock in their backyard, literally.
Yep. So we stayed at an air museum with Forest and Mary before.
We've done a winery before.
We've done a couple of wineries, and it's a really good thing. There is an annual fee to join. I think it's $40, $45 a year. We found it well worth it. It's a really unique experiences. Another one is boondockerswelcome.com. And that's kind of like if you're familiar with couch surfing, it's kind of what I call it driveway surfing for RVers. So people who own land that can host an RV, they put a listing up there and then you can ask to go and stay at their house with them, like park in their driveway or on their land. So it's kind of a cool thing as well. So those are just some ideas.
So that's how to find it. That's what it's all about now. How to manage your resources. How do you actually practically go about making a boondocking experience a good one?
Right. So when you're going out boondocking, you have what you can bring with you and what you can take out. So you're not going to have a water hookup. You're not going to have power out there other than what you can generate yourself.
Which means conservation suddenly becomes from a nice, good to do for the planet, becomes switches to becoming necessary.
Especially
very
if
necessary.
you want to stay somewhere out more than, so our tanks, we've got 90 gallons fresh plus whatever our hot water heater can hold. We've got 90 gallons gray and 45 gallons black. When we're on full hookups and we're not really thinking about it too much, we can get by with probably 9 to 10 days is about when we have to dump and fill the tanks. We're pretty conservative on a regular basis. When we're boondocking, we like to try to extend that even further. Now, 10 days in one spot's pretty good. We're usually itching to leave by then, quite honestly.
But sometimes it's nice to be able to stay longer and milk your tanks and milk your, make your electricity last. And particularly if you've got cloudy days, you want to be able to go as long as possible.
Right. Right. So we just did Borrego Springs out in Anza Borrego State Park. We just boondocked out there. I think we ended up doing 23 days there.
23 days?
But we dumped at day 17. Was it 17 or 19? Yeah, 17.
19, wasn't it?
19. Maybe it was 19. I forget.
Yeah.
We vastly extended our tank's capacity. We intentionally went fairly conservative just to see how far we could go. So it can be done and you can extend. And a lot of public lands, they do have 14-day limit. So you're going to be moving around anyway after that point. So 14 days is a good target.
Aiming for a 14-day target for making your tanks last that long, very smart.
Let's go ahead and skip ahead and we'll talk about some of that stuff. We'll go back to power.
Okay.
So some tips for saving fresh water. If you we don't normally drink bottled water. We have a nice filtration system under counter that we do for our water drinking regularly. But when we're trying to be conservative, we go and buy like a 2.5 gallon jug of water at the grocery store so that we have that for our drinking water.
And in particular as our reserve drinking water. So just in case the tanks run out from a shower, we still have water to drink for another day or two. We can put off showers and we can even put off doing the dishes if we have to, but it's always good to have a little extra drinking water on hand so we don't have to immediately rush out to find a water fill.
Right. When we're taking a shower, well, first of all, we only take showers when we're boondocking, especially in arid, dry climates. We skip showers, so we're only doing them once every 3 or 4 days. And in between, we're using a washcloth or baby wipes and wetting them down and kind of doing just, sponge bath style stuff. And then we do Navy showers. Wash the stinky bits. Yes, you want to keep those on top of. And then on shower days, we each take what we call a Navy shower. Turn on the water.
Soap up.
Turn it off while you soap up. Don't soap up while you have the water on. Bad.
Yep. Get wet, water off, soap up, water back on, rinse, and done.
So we're trying to use a gallon or 2 of water each on a shower. But when we're waiting for the hot water to come on, we actually dispose of the cold water into a bucket, and then we use that for either flushing the toilet or doing dishes with. So reusing and not wasting water. Don't let the water
go down the drain just waiting for it to get warm. That's a bad idea.
And we also use a very efficient shower head. We use the Oxygenics Body Spa, I think is what it's called, shower head, and it basically takes air, combines it with the water, so you feel like it's really high pressure.
Oh yeah, I think it takes it down to well less than a gallon a minute, and it just feels like a great shower. It's not like you're compromising in any fashion. So if you don't have an Oxygenics shower head and you want to boondock, it is very worthwhile, not expensive.
Right, they're like $30. They're just well worth having. And it's a really nice shower. I think if we ever had a regular house, I'd probably still use it. For doing dishes, we use a spray bottle when we put diluted dish soap in the spray bottle, and then we pre-soak the dishes, so go squirt on the dishes, and then scrub them, and then we dribble the water on it, or use the water as we need to rinse them. So we're not pre-soaking with our fresh water.
And you're definitely never leaving the water running while doing the dishes.
Never leave the water running when you're brushing your teeth. Turn off the water when you're not actively using it, obviously.
Another dishes trick is, of course, the simple thing of using paper plates, particularly when you've got the messier meals, and then they just become kindling for your fire if you've got a fire ring outside. So it saves the water and washing the messy stuff.
Those are some freshwater tips. For the holding tanks, for your gray water, so that's water that's coming from your shower and coming from your sink, goes into your gray tank. We do have a wash basin that we keep in the sink if we want to be really conservative. So we're collecting the dishwasher into that, and then we can take that basin outside and let it evaporate the water out. That's we do that a lot at Burning Man.
Yep. There, if you really want to maximize your water, if you want to just go Google evaporation ponds and our boondocking evaporation, there's a lot of really great tips the Burning Man communities come up with on how to evaporate your gray water. And you could extend your gray water almost forever that way.
And some people will use the dishwater. They'll strain it out so they get the food particles out, and then they'll use that for flushing their toilet as well. So they're not using the fresh water to flush the toilet. So that's another tip that some people can use. We don't do that too much. We actually are.
Tanks,
yeah, our gray water is the least of our concerns. It's usually our fresh or our black that's our limiting factor. You can also for the black tanks. If it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, flush it down. And then we also water the bushes where we can, if it's discreet enough. So that's saving space on the black tank. Black tanks, of course, things coming from the toilet.
And then some people use composting toilets to really maximize their going capacity to go quite an extended period of time. The winds are quite experts on that. If
you're interested in composting toilets, we recommend the series put together by Gone with the Winds. You'll find them on YouTube, and you also find their website, gonewiththewinds.com. We've opted not to go that route. Our black tanks seem to hold out usually longer than our itchy feet do. So I think it would only extend us about a week between having to change out the compost at any rates, and we don't typically want to stay in one location that long anyway. So for us, retrofitting isn't worth the effort. I think that's it on holding tanks, right?
And yeah, that's the tanks. There's trash.
Well, we'll go back to power for managing resources. So power.
You've got to make your own. Unless you've got a very generous neighbor who'd rather throw you a long extension cord, but no, you've got to make your own power when you're boondocking, which means generators or solar.
Or wind. Some people go with wind as well.
Wind is usually fairly disappointing in most parts of the country, but some people have made it work for RVs. Solar is
by far
a great way to go.
When you're out boondocking, by far you're going to see generators and solar. If you're going to go generator, please do the world a favor and don't do a construction generator.
There's a lot of really cheap generators out there that are cheap for a reason, and they make you no friends.
Well, they're going to be very loud. Now, if you want people to be away from you, this might be a great way to get people to move away from you. Have it nicely on display. No one will park next to you. So that is one tip. But they are loud. If you're going to go generator, a popular choice for people who just need a little bit of top up are the Hondas or the Yamahas.
Yeah, those are the two most widely seen, very, very quiet. They're inverter style generators. They only spin as fast as they need to put out the power that you're being called for. So if you've got very few things on and your batteries are getting close to topped up, the generator gets quieter and quieter and quieter. So
and of course some RVs have a generator already built in. And the ones that are built into most RVs, they're made fairly quiet. They're sound insulated. They're better than putting a construction generator out.
Well, although we do know people who have generators built into their RVs who still carry around a Honda 2000 to be their quiet generator. So when they don't need all the power to run the air conditioners and they just want to top off their batteries or run the lights or run the microwave, they still have a quieter generator than the one that's built in.
But a lot of boondockers go solar. Most of us who are boondocking, we're out here for the peace and quiet, and we don't want to listen to our own generator. Never mind a neighbor's generator. So we go solar, and that's of course what Chris and I did. We have 800 watts on our roof, and then we have 600 watts that we can put out on the ground as a ground deployable system. You go around any boondocking location, you'll see people with either panels up on the roof tilted, or you'll see them on the ground, or a combination of both.
And depending on exactly what your needs are, you can get by with, some people who just need a little bit of power to keep the light on at night. You have a little fold out system. It might only just be 100 watts or 60 watts even, and that'll keep you enough power to keep the lights on at night.
Consistently.
I'm having several people say no video.
No video.
Or we're going to keep going.
Okay. Is anybody saying there is video? So
somebody said I hit play again and it seems to be working now.
Okay, so if you're not getting video, try hitting the play button again.
Yep. Technical glitches happened.
Okay, so with the solar, you just have to decide how independent you want to be. We know some people that for their general usage, for lights, computers, charging up their devices, they use the solar, and then they might turn on a small generator to do things like running the coffee maker,
the cooking time, or and try if you're gonna need your generator to cook with, that's also going to charge your battery in the background and stuff as well. So, try to minimize your generator use just for a few bursts a day rather than leave it extended runtime.
We're now going on 1 solid month of being completely off solar, which has been really fun.
On solar.
Powered
off solar, yes.
Completely on solar, so
yes,
that's
no generators at all.
Our goal is to pretend we don't have a generator. We do have one on board. It's loud. It's off. We like to not use it.
Yep. So ways to conserve your power. One of the most important things you can do is just switch to LED lights.
For your main lighting.
Yes.
For any lights that you on and off, and LED lights, they save a ton of power. I mean, that's a known one that's been out now they've been out long enough that
they're cheap and easy upgrades. You can get replacement bulbs for almost any size bulb in an LED format, and the LEDs will use a fraction of the power of incandescence.
And they won't create extra heat in your space. So if you're doing any warm camping, they're great for reducing the amount of heat added. Now, of course, if you're doing cold camping, that heat is missed.
Yes.
You want to minimize the times that you need an inverter on. So when you're running off your batteries, anything that's 12 volt doesn't need an inverter on. So a lot of lights are hooked up that way. If you can, the things that you want to use with minimal power, if you can convert them to 12 volt, so charging stations for your devices.
We just switched to a 12 volt power television in the bedroom, so now we can go to bed and still watch movies without having to leave the inverter on.
Right, so anything you can switch to 12 volt, because an inverter has an overhead of extra power that it's going to burn just by being on.
And it then has conversion inefficiencies because basically it's taking the DC power and making AC out of it, and it can't do that at 100% efficiency. And well, a lot of electronics then are actually taking that AC power and turning it back to DC, so there's an inefficiency on the other side. So you've got like 2 places the power is wasted.
So yeah, anything you can convert over to 12 volt. So we try to think, we've been going through, like I said, we've done a lot of our lights, charging stations, and the television. I think you even put our NAS on 12 volts. Or you going to be?
In the middle of putting our NAS on the 12 volts, our backup server, and we've got everything, all our networking gear and Wi-Fi gear is all on 12 volts. So we're getting to the point where just for our big computer monitors and then for our cooking appliances is when we need to have the inverter on.
And of course, when you don't need to run devices that need 110, turn off the inverter. So once we're done computing and we're ready to switch to just using our iPads for keeping up with email and social media, we turn off the computers and we turn off the inverter.
The inverter doesn't care if it turns on and off a lot. It's just a switch. So turn it off, just like turn off the lights when you're not needing it.
And then again, obviously, turn off anything that you're not using.
Of course.
So when we're here doing boondocking, we unplug the alarm clock. We unplug things that, there might be minimal draws, but it all adds up. So that's one way you can extend your batteries.
And another thing is use propane. This is we don't have a lot of propane stuff in our coach. We're actually, part of the reason we have so much solar is we have to compensate for not having propane. But propane refrigerators use hardly any electricity, and they are very, very efficient with the propane as well. So make sure your propane refrigerator is running off of propane and not in electric mode, because it will destroy your battery in electric mode.
Heat your water off propane if you have the option. That's the one thing we do propane with still when we're not on hookups.
Yeah.
And we just use a barbecue gas grill for that. And the furnace heating, we just did a whole article on the blog about keeping warm in chilly camping that you can go see for more hints and tips on boondocking in cold weather. I think that gets through the resources section that we prepared. And we're talking about, someone had asked, written in advance and asked about what to do with trash while you're boondocking. A lot of boondocking locations are usually within a few miles of a small city, at least. So we find when we're boondocking, we're going into town once or twice a week anyway to hit a market, go to the post office, go grocery shopping, go out to dinner, things like that. And in most towns, they have a public trash center, especially if there's boondocking areas outside. There's someone who is catering to those boondockers. Visitor centers, if you can find that, usually do have recycling and or trash disposal for boondockers in the area.
And go in and ask the rangers, ask in the visitor center, hey, we're boondockers and we're patronizing your town. Where do we take our trash? And they might have something for you.
Right. Boondocking land, I mean, because It's pack it in, pack it out. What you
Mhm.
bring in, you need to bring out. And they want to minimize the amount of trash that boondockers are leaving behind. So there's usually some resource to dispose of your trash in the way that they want you to. So look around. Also talking to fellow boondockers out there. If you strike up a conversation, just ask. Most people know the ins and the outs of the area of how to get around those resources.
And then one of the other really important tips on the pack it in and pack it out is if you don't pack it in, you don't have to pack it out. So a lot of times when you do your grocery shopping, if you strip away all the excess packaging, so the cardboard on the end, and just keep the bag from the cereal, to strip away the cardboard, strip away the excess packaging and all that stuff, throw that away at the grocery store and everything, and simplify what you take out so you have a lot less trash to dispose of when you come back.
Right. Some people do keep an exterior trash can that's covered so that they put their trash out there, and then they use that to collect it to go into town. We pretty much minimize our trash pretty well. I think we go through maybe about 2, maybe 3 if we're being really indulgent, grocery-sized trash bags, like the grocery store shopping bag style of trash a week.
And you can also segregate out safely burnable trash, but only stuff that fully burns. So don't throw things with bones or screws or anything that will leave any debris behind into a fire. But if you've got a fire, feel free to burn your papers.
All right, we got one last section. We're going to talk a little bit about etiquette. While we're doing that, if you have questions about boondocking, go ahead and start queuing those up in the chat box. That's going to be over to the right-hand side of the video if you're in the browser, or the chat bubble if you're on the app. And Forrest, you ready, Forrest? He's going to start. He's going to start queuing up the questions for us. So if you go ahead and get those queued up, we can move right into the Q&A session right after this section.
So boondocking etiquette. How do you be a good neighbor?
So there's the obvious etiquette things. Know what the camping stay limits are of the area you're going to.
And don't abuse them. Some people wait until the rangers come and shoo them off the land, but that just sets a bad precedent and then encourages them to have stricter enforcement of the rules.
Right.
So,
we've seen some boondocking lands where they've started, putting stricter enforcement of the stay limits, making them shorter, enforcing them more often, just because. And
even closing areas because people abuse the rules.
Be respectful of the limit. The limit's there for a reason. It's so that, remember, especially on public lands, it's there for all of us to share.
Right.
Speaking of which, it is everyone's land. Just because you might show up and pick out this beautiful area with a lot of space around it doesn't mean it's all yours.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So, and I don't know exactly why it is, but sometimes people just seem to cluster. Like once one person finds a spot, even if you're in a big, giant, vast, wide open desert, and there's 1,000 other good spots, they're like, oh, they're in a good spot, I'll just park right next to them. And that just seems to happen. And there's not much you can do about it.
I mean, if they come in really close, you might try talking with them politely beforehand and just say, hey, is there a reason you need this spot? But some people just prefer to park closer to others for safety. But if you're wanting your privacy, that might not necessarily be your prerogative.
Yes.
But being nice to them. If you are arriving to a site, this is where you can do a lot of etiquette.
And spread the word about this too.
Yes. If someone is off on their own, more than likely they want to be on their own. So if you have other options than parking right next to them, please try to find them.
and people who are calibrated to RV park close think, oh, I'm parking far away. I'm parking two rig lengths away. It's like, no, in a boondocking space, you might have the option of parking a 1/4 mile away or 1,000 feet away. And that is great. I mean, there's big, wide open land, so use it.
Also, solar versus generator users. Since we prioritize solar, we do look around. If there's someone out with a generator out, we're not going to go park next to them and then spend the time being grumpy because they're running a generator. Yes. We knew that up front. We try to find a location away from other generator users. And
generator people, if you know you've got a generator, particularly if you've got a janky, loud generator, make sure you don't park near somebody with a solar panel. You're just upsetting them. It's like, go as far away from the solar people as you can if you've got a generator.
Spread happiness and joy. And just try to look at when you get to a location, look for something that's going to be suitable for your needs and try to consider those of the people who are already there. Don't make new spots. Rangers usually have spots already scoped out.
Yeah,
look for campfires. Look for places where looks like people have been before.
Yeah, don't plow through bushes and pat down new ground. I mean, and then pets. One great advantage for going boondocking is most places you can be a little bit informal with your pets, let them off leash, and let them have a really great time. Dog lovers love to boondock. Dog owners love to boondock, but that doesn't mean being irresponsible with your pets. That's when they're out off leash, still supervise them. Don't just let them roam free
And that's not just
terrorize others.
That's just not an etiquette thing. I mean, a lot of these places, there are wildlife out there that
Right.
could be a danger to your pet. Coyotes. We've heard so many stories.
At our last boondocking spot,
there was a
little
chihuahua that got
disappeared.
Eaten. Yeah,
and yeah, it was tragic, and it was off leash, and it was at dusk and not closely supervised enough, and it's really sad when that happens.
So yeah, you know, be careful of that. And if your pet isn't used to being off leash and being around other animals, like just an hour ago, we had an off leash dog come up and freak our cat out, who was out on her leash with us.
Yes.
So, you know, please be aware if your pet isn't trained to not go up to other animals who might not be ready for them.
Yep.
Yeah, know about those things. Yep. And noise. Be considerate of noise. Most people are out there for peace and quiet.
Or they're out there to party, in which case they should go set up their place far away from somebody else.
Or to party zone. I mean, if you go to an area that's designed for like off-road vehicle use.
And big group party camping and stuff.
Yeah, don't expect to get peace and quiet there. Just know the expectations of where you're going.
And also, if you are going out to party and you're going out to have a big group camp out, go out and let any other neighbors nearby know and give them a heads up so they discover it early rather than in the middle of the night when you're going and going and going. Yes.
All right, I think we've babbled for 40 minutes now. There's a lot of content we just tried to convey. There's a lot more resources there. If you scroll down, if you're on the browser, we have links to a lot more resources down there that you can go and learn more. But we're going to go ahead and start taking some questions. You got some questions for us, Forrest?
The first question that I have here had to do with battery capacity and air conditioners. Do you guys have enough battery capacity to sustain your air conditioner when you're boondocking? That's one of our considerations.
Okay. All right. So the question was battery capacity and air conditioners. Our first number one rule is if air conditioners are needed, it's time to go somewhere cooler.
Right. In general, I mean, even our batteries, our big lithium and inverter system, we could run our air conditioners for several hours off the batteries, but we would never be able to regenerate that much power to recharge the batteries to compensate for all that drain.
Without running the generator.
Right. So if you're going to run your air conditioners, that's actually probably a good time to run your generator. If there's like an hour in the afternoon that it's just too hot to bear, run your generator while your air conditioner is running. That way your battery actually ends up higher at the end of that time than lower.
Yeah, and keep in mind solar panels are less efficient in heat than they are in cold. So it's going to be even harder to regenerate power off solar alone for... Oh, it's wine time.
We almost forgot the wine time.
Oh, yes, it is wine time. We're drinking today a Pacific Redwood Organic Red that we picked up probably when we were up in Oregon somewhere. And we're going to share this with, if our companions here will join us for a bottle.
All of you watching us live, now's the time for you to crack open your beverages.
I bet they already have. They're ahead of us.
Okay.
If you would like to replenish our wine supply, we do have a donate button at the bottom of our website. We do appreciate the virtual bottles of wine. You have another question for us?
Certainly. When you are boondocking alone and want to reprovision or go sightseeing in the Toad, do you worry about security back at the coach?
Yeah, we don't worry about security much at all. We have found that 99% of people on the road and out there are friendly, or have good intentions and are respectful. There are, of course, bad, non-intentioned people out there. And I have good insurance to cover our things.
This is one place where it does help, like, to get to know your neighbors, even if you're spread out far and wide, is if you've introduced yourself to them, they've got eyes out, you've got eyes out, and people are generally watching out for each other really, really well.
Right. No, we do close our windows. We don't let stuff just be on display. I'm more concerned. The things I'm more concerned about when boondocking or anywhere is things like leaving the awning out and wind coming up and stuff like that. The stuff we don't have control over.
And we also do have ways to remotely monitor what's going on in our rig too.
Yes.
So we have certain security technologies.
Yes, we do have surveillance cameras and things that we can remote into. We do have tracking on the bus and stuff like that. But by and large, we don't. Life's too short to have that sort of stress.
Yep. And if any place is giving us the heebie-jeebies, that's a sign for us to move our house.
Yes.
Someone asked about best blogs to look into for boondocking, and
that was
had another question about, are the links available somewhere?
Yes. So if you go to technomadia.com/boondocking, someone has asked was where to get more information, what blogs to follow. We are starting a boondocking section on the blog, and I do have some links already set up to there with some more links there. Wheeling It, like we mentioned before, Our Odyssey, RV Sue are some popular bloggers who do blog about some of their favorite boondocking spots.
Yep.
What do you do with pet waste?
Depends on the boondocking area.
We'll talk to the camera.
Yeah.
Talk to Forrest.
Oh, yeah. So,
Thank you, Chris.
For pet waste, some boondocking areas, if you have a dog, it's perfectly acceptable just to normally just pick it up. We've seen some just leave it.
yeah.
I don't know what the exact etiquette is that we have a cat. If she's outside, she digs a hole and covers it.
And if she's inside, we put the cat litter with the regular trash, and it just goes out with the regular trash.
So yeah, pet waste really isn't an issue.
Yeah. What kind of waste do fish have? I'm not sure.
Some. What map apps do you use in finding these locations?
Okay, so we did. Someone asked what map apps we use. Back in the second section of this chat, we did go over all the apps that we use for boondocking. Right. So if you'll just watch the archive to get that answer, please.
Is there an RV size length on public lands for boondocking?
So is there an RV size length? That's going to be specific to each location, and it's something you want to research in advance, especially if you have a long thing. There are certainly sites that are not
practical limit than it is legal limits. Usually public land doesn't have specific rules like that for the big dispersed camping areas, but it does help if you've got a big rig to do your research, do your homework, make sure that you can manage all the turns, that the ground is firm enough for you. Ask around, see what other people have done.
You might even want to call the ranger station in advance and just ask what the road conditions are like, and say, "Hey, if you've got like a 45-foot motorhome, you might want to say, can I get my rig up there?" And make sure they know what an RV is. Some might be thinking small trailer.
Right. Yeah. Say you've got a big rig, Class A. We've actually had local police. We've had friends tell us that they've had local police say, "Oh, hey, let me show you my favorite secret spot," and give them a private escort to awesome boondocking spots when they ask.
Yep. If you're in doubt, call the ranger station if you can't get the information you need online.
Here's one that's right up your alley. Any tips about how to know about internet or telephone signal on BLM land or other more remote areas?
Okay, so the question is any tips on knowing if you're going to be able to get internet at a location? Obviously, that is very important to us. We actually wrote an app for that. It's called Coverage. It's currently only available in the App Store for iOS devices. But what we've done is we take Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, and T-Mobile's coverage maps, and we overlay them on your device. And
in an offline fashion, so it works even if you have very bad signal.
Right. And we use that when we're scouting out a potential location to go to. We bring that up and cross-compare the locations we're considering with the coverage maps to see if we're going to have odds of getting a good signal. And we usually find that it's pretty accurate. At the very least, we're able to get a signal if we're using our boosting gear.
Yeah. And it's also good to, when you're looking at the maps, to pay attention to elevation as well. So if you're settled down in a valley in a remote place, even if it says you've got coverage, that might be coverage that's way up over your head. But on the other hand, if you are on the fringes of a coverage area, but you are on the top of a ridge, well, you've got a great line of sight for 20 miles in any given direction, then you probably do have coverage. So look at the elevation and then look at the coverage app.
If you're not sure if you're supposed to be boondocking at a certain area, how do you make sure you're okay to be there?
Okay, so how do you make sure you're okay to be at a certain boondocking location?
Spend all night quaking.
Oh gosh, my first night we did our first night illegal, knowing it was illegal. But the first time we boondocked, when we actually hit the road together, we stopped at a place where we thought it was BLM land. And we stopped just off the interstate, and I was up all night, a nervous wreck, not knowing if it was actually allowed to be there. Because it's not like when you get somewhere, there's big welcome signs that say, you can boondock here. Although,
other than in certain parts of the Southwest.
Some popular boondocking locations do have a nice clear that sign that says 14 days stay limit there.
And actually here in Quartzsite, they even have camp hosts, and you register. Even though it's free camping, you register to go boondocking.
Yeah, so some sites, there is no doubt about it, you're allowed there. Others, it's might be questionable, and find out who owns the land that you're on. Our U.S. Public Lands app can help with that. Go to their website and see what the rules are. They're usually listed there. If their website doesn't have it, try to find the central ranger station for that region or area and call and ask. Or
then,
if there's other people out there, you're probably
you
safe.
can go on local knowledge, and then particularly if you're only staying for a night or two, is you can just trust your guts of like there's fire rings here, and it looks like other people have camped here. This feels like a good camping spot, and
Right.
if a ranger comes and says, yeah, we don't allow camping here anymore, then just say, hey, I went on my best information, and
Right.
be nice.
Right. If an area is if it used to be a boondocking location, it's no longer allowed. Usually the rangers go to effort to make it
Posted
post it and or remove the evidence of there having been camping there before.
Since you alluded to your battery capacity as a part of this, somebody wants to know how much battery capacity.
Okay,
do you
so
have?
our battery capacity, we have a 500 amp hours of lithium ion batteries, and we can take those down safely pretty low. We consider it 20%, so we have about 400 amp hours usable.
350, 400 is what
we usually have
draw.
usable. You can go to technomadia.com/lithium, and you can read all about our battery setup.
And technomadia.com/solar has got all about the solar side as well.
Any other questions?
And you can tell that some people have asked questions that are not about boondocking, and I have passed over them for the moment.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Do we want to switch to general questions? Or
Are
is
there
any
more boondocking questions?
I think I've covered all the
Okay,
boondocking
so
questions now.
if you don't have any more boondocking questions, we do welcome. We'll maybe stay on for a couple more minutes. We'll welcome some non-boondocking questions if you have them.
Let me see what I can pull out of here.
Okay. Forrest is picking the best of the questions.
Here's
a toast to Forrest and Mary for being
Thank you, Forrest and Mary.
saving us from leaning in to squint at the screen.
Yes, if you appreciate us not leaning in, do send us a bottle of wine that we can share with them.
I don't know what you want to do with this one, but it's an interesting question. No, you guys don't carry weapons. Can you elaborate why?
I can envision far more scenarios where they would cause unintentional harm than they would actually improve a situation.
There are so many different weapons, and the best weapon you could have is
your
having your
head.
wits about you. And
I enjoy shooting. I do enjoy shooting. I have been trained. I just don't trust that in a situation, if it came to it, that I would have the same skills that I have on a shooting range to hit target on, or that I would have the capacity to actually pull the trigger, and that's far more dangerous than not having a weapon on board.
Someone asked, what do you say to people to make them leave if you don't like them as your neighbors?
I'm really bad at confrontation. I hate confrontation.
If you can talk to them nicely and when they're arriving, but I mean, it is public land, and it's really, I mean, there's not a lot you can say other than, hey, maybe there's a better spot down the road here for you.
Some people, they'll put intimidating things out. We had one person who suggested putting a tuba and a trombone out on the picnic
accordion,
table.
yes.
Out and just make it clear you're going to be making lots of noise. Have a janky generator out.
Somebody else suggested playing Norwegian death metal very loudly, and that would keep people from camping near you. Which I think actually could be kind of fun. I don't know. You might get some other people who are into Norwegian death metal camping next to you, and they'll try
That
to
would be scary. A generator question. Do you use a thermoelectric generator?
Okay, so someone asked about what our generator is. We have a 1983 diesel 7,500 kilowatt
very
old janky generator.
Yes, it's an Onan. I mean, it's actually a really nice generator that's just basically sat and been unmaintained for how many years has that been? Over 20 years.
We're designing around not relying on a generator, so between the solar, and we can also charge our batteries off our alternator.
I think actually the thermoelectric ones are those generators that you use over a campfire that let you charge your USB gadgets and stuff while you're cooking your food over a campfire.
You can do that, as certainly that's a way to go about it.
Backpackers
and minimalists and van dwellers, that's a great option. With our system, we've got 1,400 watts of solar and 500 amp hours of battery.
Yeah, those small thermoelectric ones, thinking of what you're thinking of, is they only put out enough power to charge like one or two USB gadgets. They're not power or rig type power. They're keep your lantern and your iPad going while you're out on a backpacking trip.
I've had a couple of people ask what kind of camera you're using for the stream.
That's a Retina iPad Mini.
Yeah, so we're using how we do these. We are using an iPad, and we have an unlimited data plan on Verizon and on AT&T.
Yep. And
that's how we're broadcasting this. So.
You've talked previously about sailing in the future. Is that still something you're thinking about?
Yes. This is someone asked if we're still thinking about sailing. It is always a possibility for us, or switching. I think the more immediate transition might be trying the Great Loop and doing more of a houseboat style thing and doing the rivers and intercoastals of the East Coast.
I always wanted to do the Great Loop, and it can be done in a sailboat, but you're not going to do a lot of sailing on that route, and you have to take your mast down for half of it. So
right, yeah.
we'll, if we get to the point of doing the Great Loop, we'll be picking the best boat to do that, and then eventually might do sailboats for places where sailboats.
It is a long-term goal. We kind of need to do a little more transitioning out of work mode and be more semi-retired, because it is more difficult to keep online and work while sailing. So.
A boondocking question. Laundry during boondocking. Do you hand wash or take it to town?
Okay, so laundry while
boondocking.
boondocking.
Good question.
If you've got laundry on board, obviously your tank capacity and power capacity could play in. We know some people who, if they have the extra power at the end of their stay, might run their laundry.
Yeah, before they go into town to refill their tanks, they might use what's left to do a load or two of laundry, draining their tanks.
Now, we don't have laundry on board. We did not prioritize that when we selected our bus conversion. We like laundromats, so we will go into town. We'll just pick a day. We'll go in and do our laundry.
We have enough. We have, I guess, actually another tank to consider is your closet capacity. So we have enough clothes that we can easily go 2 or 3 weeks with the clothes we have on board, and then we just have a big pile of laundry and then do it in 2 hours. You're done at a laundromat.
Yeah, under usually an hour and a half at most at a laundromat, and we'll get 3 or 4 loads done, and we can do other chores while we're doing that. We might take care of the grocery shopping at a nearby market or something.
So easy trip to town every 2 weeks.
Yeah, there's no need for us to hand wash. We're abundant in clothing,
and less so in water, actually.
Yes.
Can a Class A drive over rough terrain as well as Class C? Also, please compare with Class B.
Oh gosh.
Oh,
Depends on the rig entirely.
So someone asked, can a Class A versus B versus C going over rough terrain? It all really comes down to the terrain and the rig and your
the quality of the rig
and your comfort level with driving it. There's nothing unique about a Class A versus a Class B. It's the tires. It's your suspension.
Some rigs are built as all-terrain vehicles. They're expedition vehicles and stuff like that. But then other things like our Odyssey, if you go check ourodyssey.us, Sean and Louise took their massive double-decker bus down ridiculous back roads, and so it can be done.
Yeah, it's really your comfort level. Yes. We have some people say, oh, you shouldn't be taking your bus down these roads. Like, we're fine with it. Yeah.
Our bus used to serve taking miners to a mine back when it was in service in the 60s and 70s. So
So really, it's much more specific than Class A versus B versus C.
The bigger trick is if you get stuck, do you have an idea of how you'll get unstuck without paying a fortune in towing if you're way off the highway?
So if we're unsure about a road up ahead, we unhitch our Toad, which is a Mini Cooper, and we drive ahead and scout it out. We're hesitant to go in sandy things because we're, heavy on the axles. So if it's sandy or not firm ground, then we don't go down that path with the bus.
Trash question. While saving up trash, what are bear and other critter prevention tips?
So with trash, bear and critter prevention tips, of course, know what the local wildlife is and what the... Usually a ranger station will tell you what the local wildlife is and give you those tips on what you should do. We keep our trash inside our Mini. We don't leave it outside. Even if it's not a bear that we're attracting, raccoons or other things.
Raccoons will tear things apart.
Yeah, so we keep our trash enclosed. We maybe put it in the bay of the RV. We have big bays.
And then, as we're getting ready to go to town, we'll just actually start putting our recycles and the trash into the trunk of the Mini. And so when we go to town, it's all there and ready to go.
When's the last time you used your Sea Eagle? Do you still have it?
So last time we have an inflatable kayak. The question was, and when was the last time that we used it? Well, we've been in dry environments for quite a while, so obviously we haven't used it.
Did we use it in Michigan at all? No.
I think it was in Michigan. I think it was in Alpena, probably over the summer.
Oh yes, Alpena. We used it a ton in Alpena. That was amazing.
What we like about the inflatable is it doesn't take up much space in our bay.
And it's there when we need it.
It's there when we need it, so we don't feel bad about carrying it around and only using it 2 or 3 times a year. Unlike some people who carry them on top of their cars all the time.
Yeah, I'm sure it's affecting your fuel economy everywhere you drive. And
Forced America carry 2 hard-sided kayaks on top of their
And when was the last time you used your kayak?
It's been a while. Too long.
Yeah.
What transmission is in the bus, automatic or stick?
So our bus conversion, we have an 8V71 Detroit diesel 2-stroke engine. And the transmission, it originally came with a Spicer 4-speed manual, but it was converted.
One of the prior owners did.
One of the prior owners converted it to an Allison V730, which is a 3-speed that came out of the transit buses.
So take the city bus and put it in the city bus transmission, and put it in the highway bus.
So our particular bus model has very few transmissions that will actually fit in because it's we have a lazy tilt the way that they built our engine in.
Yes.
You have a lot of followers, YouTube, Facebook, blog. Do you follow back? Hope to meet you on the road.
Someone asks, we have a lot of followers. Do we follow back? We do follow back and we link to, but honestly, our time is very limited.
Mostly we follow and pay attention to the people that we've met in person.
Or those that are frequently interacting with us in our social media. So if we see another blogger or someone interacting often, we usually go and check them out. And if they strike a chord, we'll follow back.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, our time is very limited and there's only so much we can do.
There's some other incidental questions, but I'll let you look through the chat.
Okay.
And you can maybe answer them later.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Well then.
We've been chatting for over an hour. Thank you so much for joining us. Like we said, if you would like to replenish the wine, there is a donate button, or you can PayPal us at contact@technomadia.com. We do appreciate those contributions.
But they're appreciated, but not expected.
But more importantly, we'd love to hear your feedback on it, not just on this video chat feed, and the comments will all go away when we create the archive. But if you write us at contact@technomadia.com or on our Facebook page when we post the archive or something like that, we'd love to hear your feedback. We love to connect with you. That's why we do these. The feedback is in the appreciation, and hearing it is what is so keeps us motivated to keep doing these.
Yes. And hopefully we'll see you out on the road at some point.
Yes. Well, if you want to join in on these live chats in the future, make sure you're on our email list. You can sign up for that at any link on our website on the sidebar. And we do have a special one just for the live chats and, of course, the blog posts too. And we see you online.
Cheers.
Cheers.